Hey there! Today we're going to talk about this ink. Pelikan 4001 Türkis, aka Turquoise, aka Turquoise. I got this ink quite a while ago because I thought I didn't actually have any Pelikan inks. Now these are 30 ml bottles of ink. I think they look pretty nice, sort of old-fashioned nice bottles. Very wide neck, you can get your pen in all the way. I enjoy that. This cost me €3.95, which for 30 ml of ink, I guess it's not that bad. Then again, 30 ml is not that much, so relatively speaking, I'm not sure whether it's an extremely cheap ink. What I do know is that someone sent me a sample of Edelstein Topaz once. Edelstein is the more luxurious branch of inks by Pelikan, and I can tell you, I can see no difference between the regular Pelikan Turquoise and the Türkis, you know what I mean, Türkis and the turquoise and Edelstein Topaz. I could just see no difference whatsoever. Edelstein is quite a bit more expensive, but it also comes in a fancier bottle, and most of all, it comes in a much larger bottle. So you should actually do some mathematics on this and try to figure out which of the two inks is actually cheaper, because as far as I could tell, in all honesty, there is no difference. Now, I think turquoise is a nice color. It's all over my fingers. I just did the writing part for this video. You know, it's a nice, vibrant color. It's a light blue that's still legible. I absolutely love B.R.E Bleu Azur. I think it's a fantastic, nice, sparkling color, but it's so light that I just cannot read back what I wrote, and that's, for me, that puts me off an ink. With this ink, that is no problem. You can definitely read it, and yet it's nice, sparkly, vibrant. So I really love that ink, and I think, I mean, it's nice and wet. It's not, too wet. It's not excessively wet. It doesn't really interfere with your writing, and the drying time is pretty okay, and yet it's nice and wet. So I think it's a very nice, very good ink you could use pretty much every day. And that's all there is to it. So I think it's time we have a look at some writing. Bye bye. Okay, there we go. Today's ink is, I thought I had to do something with a dip nib, sorry. Pelikan Türkis, also known as turquoise, and that's all there's to it. Okay, let us start. Brothers and sisters of the fountain pen cult, with a fine nib. Looks like a pretty light blue for now, with a quick brown. Very light blue, maybe a bit like a B.R.E Bleu Azur. I love that color, but it's, for me, it's too light to read it. This is a bit darker, I think. The ink is on my fingers already. Haven't even been into this for a couple of minutes. Medium. A bit darker. Now we get to a real nib. Nothing wrong with those, I'm just kidding. It's a pretty wet ink, if I remember correctly, and that's kind of confirmed here. Good flow. Then in italic, this will bring out the shading, I think, fairly nicely. The B.R.E has already done that to a certain degree. Now, when it comes to this ink and shading, there definitely is shading. The thing is, it's not extremely in your face. Not as with Noodler's Apache Sunset, for example. I love that ink, but the shading, I mean, you cannot deny the shading. I like that, but with this ink, it's a bit more restrained. So let's do some passes. 1, still 1, soon to be 2. Still 1, soon to be 3. Come back to those when they're dry. Okay. A bit of flex writing. You can see it's wet, right? I'll just put down Türkis here. It's a bit shorter than turquoise. Türkis. Now, if you want real flex, you need a nice dip nib, something like this. Just showing you this for fun. That is flex. You know, just a bit of harmless fun. Well, a bit more writing. Can't really bring out the flex in this nib because there isn't a whole lot of flex, but still. Just to give you more of a taste of the ink under more pressure. Türkis? I don't know. That's you know what that's supposed to be. Maybe I was just being friendly. Kus is the Dutch word for kiss. How are we doing here? That's dry. Good. Second and third passes. Well, I mean second and second passes actually. There we go. Come back to those in a second. First, a bit more writing. Türkis. This bit gives you, I think, an indication of the shading. You see it's very dark, it's very saturated, but I went very slow with a lot of ink. You can see the shading a bit better here, I think, and here. We really see a nice gradual thing from the very light blue to a somewhat darker blue. I think it's best to describe this ink as fresh. The color is it's not too much in your face. It's It's fresh, it's nice, it's a little sparkling, it's you know, it's fresh, just fresh. Pelikan Turquoise. Vibrant. That would be a word I'd use to describe this ink. Okay, now, how are we doing here? Dry. Third pass. Come back to those when they are completely dry, but for now, let's do some fooling around with water. T for Türkis. And let's do that with a medium nib. Blue Türkis. OBKB, we just have to wait a bit. In the meanwhile, I think that's pretty much dry. Have a look at those. Very light blue, gets darker. For some reason this does remind me a little bit of a Caribbean Sea or something. It's nice and sparkling. I enjoy this. And as you can see, with a lot of saturation, which is also what you see in this extreme flex writing. And on my nail too, by the way. I think you see that it gets very dark. It gets to a much darker blue. Whereas, funnily enough, with an italic, it's pretty light. So that's kind of the difference, I think. That's dry. Well then, put a bit of water to that. I enjoy watching how that progresses and dissolves, actually. I'm just going to cheat a little, otherwise we may be here for quite a while. I didn't actually touch that, right? You saw it. Just drying that up a bit, otherwise it's going to take a long time. Careful I don't actually erase that writing. Okay. Well, I'm not sure whether the blotting paper ruined that. Let's try that one more time. Blue. Just wait. Dry. Not entirely dry, but soon dry. Let's see what happens there, without blotting paper intervening. Meanwhile, in Gotham City, I think we can actually make a scorecard, partially, and then we'll come back. Haven't seen any nib creep here, which is cool. I haven't seen that, I think, on any of the pens. Let's do a bit of a scorecard, shall we? Cleaning. Been a while since I used this ink, but as far as I can remember, it's excellent. No real troubles, no issues. It flushes out fairly easily. In fact, yeah, that's true. In fact, cleaning is so good that I often put this in piston fillers that I cannot disassemble, because it seems to clean out pretty easily. Now, it's not a miracle ink that just flushes out in one flush and go, but still, it's not bad. So cleaning is good. Bleed through. I'll have to come back to that. Bleed through. Color. Well, that's quite clearly turquoise. Undeniably, no, not undeniably, undeniably so. Shading. I would say shading is good. It's not extreme, but it's definitely there. Flow. Excellent. I put this in the pens with the converters, just wiped the nib and the feed in the section, put it to the paper, it immediately wrote in all 4 pens I'm using, including the calligraphy pen, so that's very good. Feathering. I don't see any feathering here, but let's wait until we've had some cheap copying paper to see what that does. Dry in time. Seems good. It's a wet ink, but as you just saw right there, it doesn't take, hours to dry. Speaking of dry, I'll just grab a tissue and get rid of the excess water there, as far as it's necessary. Okay, well then, we end up with waterproofness. And waterproofness is fairly poor. As you can see, the writing is completely gone there, and maybe that was a bit too wet. I really had the feeling it was dry, but okay. You can see the writing is gone there, and this has turned into a very artistic cloud-shaped thing with a letter sort of poking through or something. So waterproofness, I would say, is poor at best. Still, I think this looks very artistic and it's very nice, but if you want something that will stay in your documents if you walk through the rain, then clearly this is not your ink. Okay, let's get rid of this sheet of paper. Let's have a look at bleed through. I see some there, but apart from that I don't, and this is 3 passes with a 6mm nib. So the fact that bleeds through isn't that strange, and there was a little bit of bleed through there, which is from the Extreme Flex nib. But apart from that, I don't see any bleed through. Now, of course, this is Rhodia paper, so that's very high quality paper. Now let's have a look at some copier paper. There we go. What we have is here what am I? No. There was something getting in the way of my writing, sorry. Make a nice eye, something like this. Am I boring you yet? Copier paper. Aye, let's have a look. First we have a fine nib. The quick brown fox was xeroxed. The quick brown fox was Xanaxed. quick brown fox was xylophone. And an italic. Quick brown fox was I'm not sure about this. Was xenophobic? Is that the Greek spelling? This is never xenophobe. Xenophobia. Greek wouldn't. The Greek wouldn't actually conjugate it like that, but something like that. All right. Let's see if we can induce some feathering. What's a good letter? Well, I don't see a lot of feathering, but I have something here that induces feathering like there is no tomorrow. If, in fact, it writes. Always the last bit of the letter. Always the last bit. Well, there we go. Sorry about my arm being in the way all the time. Have to make that dry a bit. 1 second. Still waiting. Waiting. Too bad about the shadow, isn't it? Well, there's flecks. And there's definitely feathering, alright. Can you see that? I'm sure you can see that, even with the naked eye. Lots of feathering. But let's be fair. That's not a fountain pen. And when I use an extremely broad nib, 6mm, I don't really see a whole lot of feathering, except in the places where there's a lot of ink. There's some feathering. Whereas this one has feathering pretty much everywhere. Now if I were to do that with a fountain pen, I'm sure you would find some feathering too. If I were to use just a broad nib, I can see the feathering with the broad nib a little bit. I'll just try to apply some nice pressure. And terrible handwriting, by the way. I don't think I've ever written like that. That's annoying. Let's do it like this. Drying. You know what, let's speed up the process a bit. Yeah, that gives us some nice feathering, but of course that's forced. This gives us feathering. What about bleed through? Oh yeah. There we go. Some bleed through for the regular writing. As I told you, I think it's a reasonably wet ink. It's not excessively gushing, but it is a wettish ink. Definitely bleed through the calligraphy, bleed through the extreme flex, bleed through the very broad writing, and some bleed through regular writing. So, let's finish up our scorecard. Feathering. Now, bear in mind, what I just showed you was copier paper, right? Cheap paper, because with more expensive paper there's hardly any bleed through. So I will say feathering, bad. Cheap paper, good, nice paper. Of course, you cannot always choose. Sometimes you're stuck with what you've got at your job or at your work or at home, whatever. But just something to bear in mind. So that's all there's to it. Pelikan Turquoise. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Think about which ink color you'd like to see next. And then that's it.